Every hour in the United States, 34 children are sold into modern-day slavery. There is an estimated 100 to 300,000 children per year sold in the United States of America. 1% of these children are rescued, while 1 out of every 100,000 traffickers is ever convicted. This is the fastest growing crime in the United States, second next to drug trafficking, which is expected to pass by the year 2013. For unlike a drug that can only be sold once, children can be passed up to as many as 30 men each night. These children are literally in slavery. Slavery is not dead, and not all Americans are free. It's a war. It's a war for these children, and they're desperately crying out for help. I was a pretty bubbly and outgoing little girl with big dreams. I wanted to be a mommy and a police officer. But at the age of 4, I began getting groomed through molestation and abuse for what my life was going to be like as a sex slave. By the time I was 10, I was being passed around at various bars all across Dallas-Fort Worth. And sometimes I would wake up and not know where I was or how I'd gotten there. And so for a gambling debt that my family member couldn't pay, he traded me off to another butcher. And my trafficker kept me locked up throughout the day, chained to a metal twin-size bed. And there was 14 girls where I was. And then in the evenings, they would doll me up and present me as a willing child. Sometimes there were 5 men a night. Sometimes there were 30 men a night. And then after about a year and a half of being in the trafficking realm, a gentleman walked in, but when everything was said and done, he pulled out a little flask and he set me on fire. There was a gentleman that helped me, and I went to the hospital and I underwent extensive surgeries to repair me and fix the damages before I was to get released. After being in the hospital for almost a year, I left and took off on the run because I didn't want to face going back home. I knew what would happen again. Within very little time at all, I found myself being prostituted on the street as a 14-year-old girl in order to survive. And finally at 17, my trafficker was locked up, and then I was free. If you could say I was free, I was no longer in trafficking, but with no education, no job skills, no family or support, no counseling, no anything. So if I had had a home instead of a jail cell, instead of the mean streets, somewhere to turn, it would have allowed me to recover and heal that much quicker, and it would have made a huge impact in my life as a teenager.
Human trafficking is modern-day slavery. It's the new way of calling it from the government's perspective. It's a $32 billion a year industry. It is in every country of the world, even though it's illegal in every country. There are more slaves today than there have been in all of history. We have about 27 million people enslaved in the world today. In the United States, we have around 100,000 children that are at risk for human trafficking every year, as well as around 17,500 that are brought in from other countries to be slaves, whether in labor or in the sex industry.
So Oklahoma is one of the top states for trafficking issues, and State Department says it's because of our location. So when you think about slavery, historical slavery, it's port cities and trade routes. The port cities are the hub of activity, the trade routes are the dispersion for profit. Here in the United States, our port cities are Vancouver, San Francisco, LA, Houston, Miami, New York. Our trade routes are the highway systems that link the major cities. Oklahoma happens to lie in the association of some major market cities, Houston and Dallas to our south, Kansas City and St. Louis to the north, Vegas and other cities, east and west coast. And so our location is a very important factor. And the highways, 3 major highway systems that run, that link east to west and north to south and come through here. This population between 11, 12 up to 17, 18 is the most vulnerable group where where there's not much in place. We do have runaway shelters and temporary things, but nothing for long-term care for young girls and boys that have been exploited in commercial sex trafficking.
We do not have institutions in place, sufficient institutions in place that can actually provide solid healing. You put victims in regular foster care, they're not receiving the psychological support that they need or the love that they need or even the security measures that they need to keep them there from a pimp to protect them from those things. They don't fit in domestic violence shelters because of the other problems associated with having been a trafficking victim. There is just a definite hole in the system that we have got to come to fill up. And so it is just imperative that we have homes for under 18 victims of human trafficking. There's just not enough facilities, and we have got to do that. The need is huge.
And My Father's House offers the time, tools, love, and specialized care that these children need to rebuild, recover, and discover their hope and their future. My Father's House will give them a chance to dream new dreams and for the nightmares to end. And My Father's House is crucial to the state of Oklahoma's children.
The solution is homes like My Father's House that will take into consideration all of the issues that trafficking victims are facing.
My name is Ruth Billings, and I am CEO and founder of My Father's House. And the vision and the mission of this ministry, the heart of this ministry, is to children who have been deeply wounded through human trafficking, child human trafficking, forced prostitution, and child pornography.
On the outskirts of Claremore, Oklahoma, there is a piece of property, 80 acres in size, that's very near the interstate. It's very near to city facilities, and yet it's just far enough away from town that it can be used as a safe haven, a place where young people can feel comfortable with their surroundings.
The long-term vision is to build 6 to 8 homes where we'd have 6 to 8 children in a home. It'd be set up like a home where they would have actual parents to help them, to show them what a godly family is raised like, or what it is to have a real family.
We want to create this community of these houses or homes, so they have their own little section of the campus where it's almost like a neighborhood. So these kids feel like they belong to that area, in these individual houses. We want an area when you come in that it's open. When you walk in, you feel like you're in this one big family room, and you always feel like you're part of the group, and everyone is visual identity to the room entries, the kitchen, and so everything's part of this central space. We're in an area where we can open up vistas, where you can see outdoors. We can bring nature into the house to make the outside environment feel connected to some of these big open spaces, to feel like these kids know that they're part of this campus.
This piece of land already holds some amenities that we can use to begin phase 1 of this project. There is a home already there that we can use to begin taking children in.
The beautiful part about this 80 acres is that there's enough land there that these young people can be involved with animals, like horses, for example. They can do gardening. There's ponds where they could go possibly fishing or maybe swimming.
The vision of this ministry also is to build an educational center, the recreation center, and the administrative offices. We want to provide athletics and recreation so that we can educate children. Many of these children are children who were not able to go to school or to finish high school. So we desire to give them an education, and also we will provide education even through college classes for them. And my heart is to give these children a beautiful home to live in. It's something that most of them have probably never had, and I believe it's the Father's heart, our Heavenly Father's heart, to provide the very best for them.
While trafficking seems like it's hopeless because it's so vast and there's so much of it, there is hope, and there's hope found in Him, and there's hope because of support. And this project needs support. It needs you to reach out a hand and open up your heart to a child that's walked in my shoes.
As we learn more and more about this, as you're learning about this, you should feel compelled. You should be disgusted, shocked, angry, incensed, and ready to do something about it. And what can we do? You know, there's a famous saying that evil exists when good people do nothing. It continues to thrive and darkness grows until we stand up. And it takes each one of us doing something. You know, you can help financially, you can volunteer, you can spread the word, you can do something to help today, and that's going to make the difference for these young victims.
Imagine when a child is returned to their family and they have a normal childhood where they can go out and play and they are not being sold. Imagine that immigrant to this country who actually gets to have a job and the American dream. Imagine that girl having a breakthrough in counseling where she realizes this is not her fault, where she realizes that she can actually have full healing. Imagine that joy that overcomes her and she can go forth and be the woman that she was created to be. Imagine that you had a hand in making that joy happen for others. Imagine just the satisfaction that you get when you hear that because you talked about it, because you educated someone else, a rescue occurs.
We are inviting you to be a part of the fundraising efforts, either by donating or becoming actively involved with us in this campaign to begin this project to purchase our land and to begin this project for the children.
While numbers are numbing and statistics are demoralizing, while this problem seems so large to overcome, by the simple generosity of your support, from $1 to whatever amount that you can give, it can and will change a life. So please donate and support a child today.
How great it would be when we can go into any restaurant or any salon or any movie theater or any wherever and not have slavery exist. Where when we look at children in the playground, we don't see potential victims or people that are susceptible to pimps and traffickers and all of this other, but instead we see kids that are actually getting to swing on those swings innocently without the fear of it, because there will be such repercussions for them, because there is an army of abolitionists surrounding them, because we have made this world safer and our society safer. That would be fantastic. And I know that that can happen if we all collectively do our part.